Hey guys, welcome to the Titanium Vault. I'm your host, RJ Bates III. And today I've got my friend and buddy, Tez Arbertha. How you doing, Tez?
I'm doing amazing, my brother. How are you?
I'm doing good. Man,
Good.
it was such an honor to get to hang out with you in San Antonio a couple weeks ago. And I know we talked about, hey, we got to get you on the podcast, chop it up here.
Mm-hmm.
Tell everybody where you're from and what it is that you're doing inside of real estate investing.
Absolutely, man. So again, I'm Tez Arbertha out of Oklahoma City, from Oklahoma City, born and raised. And I got started in real estate real early. About 20, I say real early, about 24 years old. But now what I'm doing is I'm a real estate investing mentor. I also invest in real estate. So I'm teaching people how to wholesale, fix and flip, buy and hold, subject to creative finance, all the things that we're doing to get deals done. And that's me entirety, right? So not just a coach, also a real estate investor, crushing between 20 to 22 deals a month right now on the wholesale side and fix and flip. So we're rocking and rolling out here in Oklahoma City, man.
Love it. You know, I had to go ahead and just dive into this because every time I talk to you, Oklahoma City comes up. I mean, OKC is important to you. So tell everybody, why is OKC so important to you?
Man, Oklahoma City is one of those places that is so slept on, and I think it's changing a whole lot. Not even I think, we know it is, like statistically it's showing, but it's been slept on for so long, and I've always been able to do what people said I couldn't in this city,
Right.
or what they assume is not here. I mean, and it goes way back to like college, right? I didn't go to college, but my best friend would go play quarterback at OU.
Okay.
And dude, we would come across guys from Miami, from Texas, from Florida, and they hadn't left Norman. They thought Norman, Oklahoma was like Oklahoma, right? And they were like I was chilling with this dude from Miami, and he was like, bro, so like, what y'all got, like dirt roads and shit? And I was like, yeah, bro, we do in some places, but not everywhere is dirt roads, you know?
Right.
So I mean, just me putting OKC on the map is very important to me. So it's just where I'm from, man. I love this place.
I don't know if he knows this or not, but there's dirt roads in Florida too. He needs to learn that. That's funny. You said cornerback or quarterback?
Quarterback.
Okay, what was his name?
Kendall Thompson.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Listen, I'm a big sports fan, so now I just have to let everybody know. Hook 'em horns, okay? So,
yeah. Hey, his brother played quarterback at Texas, Casey.
Yeah. So
yeah,
I love it. Now he's up in Nebraska.
Yeah. I've got Casey doing a football camp. I'm doing a football camp in May where I have 100 kids coming out. The first 100 kids are going to be free. 50 kids after that are going to be paid, and Casey's going to be there.
Man, that's awesome. That's good stuff. All right, so we could talk about that for 40
minutes. All day.
Let's get back to real estate.
Let's go.
We're here for real estate. All right, so you said you got started when you were 24 years old. So was that wholesaling, or did you dive into buying properties?
Man, dude, good question. So actually, I started out on the retail side of real estate. Okay. Oklahoma is one of the only states in the U.S. that allows somebody to work for them, a new home builder, without needing a real estate license. Okay. So I didn't know anything about real estate. Honestly, I jumped in just for money, to be clear.
Right.
Like I didn't jump in to change anybody's lives except mine and my family's. And after I got a passion for everything else, but dude, I jumped in working for a new home builder here in Oklahoma.
Okay.
And this new home builder, basically, they would build a neighborhood out. I would be in a model home sitting there trying to sell the product that they provided, right? And that was the bulk of it. I couldn't sell outside of this neighborhood. Right. I couldn't go sell a house, that wasn't brand new that they built. So that's how I started out in real estate.
So that seems like, was it a good experience for you? Because it almost feels like it would be misleading from a what your sales abilities would be, right? Like if I'm walking into a model home, I'm kind of already thinking about moving into that neighborhood, right? So was it misleading to your sales abilities?
No, man. In a lot of ways. So I compare it to like a auto shop, a car dealership, right?
Okay.
You walk in, your mind's not made up. You want to buy a car. You just don't know if it's with these people, if it's this product, if it's this car that they provide. And what Roush Coleman built, the company that I work for, is they built an entry-level product. So it was a lot of people who did have to be sold. And our biggest competition was existing homes. Because with new construction homes, you can get a 1,500 square foot house, but it's significantly higher than a 1,500 square foot house down the street that's existing.
Right.
So it still was a sale, and I definitely sold my freaking butt off, and it was a great experience because in the first year I sold 55 properties. After that first year, I became the area sales manager. So after a year of working for this builder, literally starting with no experience, I've crushed the numbers. The person next to me sold only like 40 houses. I sold 55, so the gap was really big.
Right.
So they promoted me. And what I learned from working for this multi-million-dollar company, I mean, probably even billion at this point, they crushed like 600 closings in just one division a year. It's crazy how big they are. But what I learned from them, and when I started to be a sales manager, is I went from being a person who was selling the properties to teaching people how to sell houses. Gotcha. So now I'm leading 18 six-figure a year paid employees, salespeople who are not only good at selling houses, but also good at selling me on why they can't sell houses. So it was an interesting transition from going to be somebody who was never built to be a leader. I mean, honestly, I wasn't a leader. I never been in a leader position before that position. They kind of threw me out there. And anyway, dude, so I can go on.
It's funny you say that because with the short amount of time that I spent around you, you naturally come off as just a natural born leader. So it's weird that you say that you hadn't been in a leadership position before, because I would have thought, man, just coming up like sports, you were just the captain, you were like class president or something along those lines. Like, hey, I'm just jumping in that leadership position. So at what point in time did you, what was the next step in your journey there? Where did you go after becoming the sales manager there?
So, man, I went from like watching the clock tick to making the clock tick. I always make that, like, like looking at the clock and then you get inside it. You're like, oh, this is way different than it looks like out there. Right. So what happened was my responsibility increased and money was still really good. I mean, I was a six-figure guy when I was working as just a salesperson, but I became, they assured me $100,000 a year and then bonuses and stuff like that. It was a lot of good money, but dude, I was time broke. I went from being financially broke to being time broke. I'm sure you heard about this, man. You got high paid employees. Dude, I got professional athlete buddies. I got doctors, dentists. Dude, you get paid really good money, but nothing is more important than having the time freedom with you and your family. And if somebody told me that a year before I got into it, I probably would have fought them right then and there, right? I probably wouldn't believe anybody that told me you'll make six figures and you'll hate it.
Right.
You'll make $200,000 a year and you'll absolutely not like it. You would trade it for $50K just to have all your time back. Right. And that's where I was. I was like, look, man, I got to find something. I got to pick something up. Something's got to happen. I didn't know anything about investing. Like when you think about these top real estate agents and all these people selling all these millions of real estate, they don't know. A lot of them don't know crap. I don't want to say they don't. A lot of them don't when it comes to investing.
Yeah.
And that's why so many get in the way. But that's who I was. I thought I knew everything, bro. I thought I knew so much.
That's
like, yo, RJ, it would get to the point to where you would ask me, Tez, hey, what's up, man? Who are you? Or, nice to meet you. I would say, yo, I'm Tez Arbertha, and I'm the area sales manager over at, like, I would introduce what I did with who I am so many times.
That it was your identity,
It was my identity, man.
And you know what? I mean, this is kind of my intuition about you telling me the story. I mean, you could have also just not been happy with what you were doing, like the actual day-to-day activities as well, because that's another thing. I mean, it's easy to say, okay, well, I was making a lot of money, but I also didn't have the time. But if you were enjoying what you were doing during that time, I mean, you're kind of like, well, there's a trade-off there. Like, I'm making good money and I enjoy what I'm doing.
That's a good point.
So there could have also been another thing there that maybe you just weren't even thinking about, like, dude, on a day-to-day basis, this is just not enjoyable in what I'm doing.
No, dude, no, you're 100% right. I mean, because I'm sitting there thinking about, professional athlete. Like, if you love what you do, whatever. So no, I 100% agree with that, man. That's such an interesting perspective.
Think about a Major League Baseball player when they have to go on like these 10, 12 game road trips. Like, that's 10 or 12 days where they're not getting to see their family.
Yep.
But yet somehow they find a way to do it for 15 to 20 years.
Yeah.
It's because there's a trade-off there, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they probably go, my son plays travel hockey, and so I've gotten to get to know quite a few NHL players, and that's what they always talk about. It's like they literally have the conversation with their family where it's like, I've worked my whole life for essentially this 10 to 15 year moment in my lifetime. And like, yeah, we're we're gonna have to trade off my not being here on road trips, essentially.
Yeah.
So there is something to be said about that.
Yeah.
So what did you do to fix the problem that you had there?
Absolutely, man. So what I did was I started looking into other ways of making money. I came across a guy named Sean Terry, dude out of Arizona. Came across this podcast back in 2017, 2018. Came across this dude's podcast talking about yellow letters and talking about, all this other stuff back in the day, stuff that probably ain't working now. But, and I was like, what is this wholesaling thing? So I went down this rabbit hole looking into it. Sounded too good to be true. It turned out it wasn't, but it sounded like it, right? And
Right.
I was just on the fence, man. I mean, I was making, 10, 12 a month. So I started to put a little bit into marketing. I didn't know what I was doing. I was putting out bandit signs. I put a website up. I just started, man, straight up from a podcast. No mentor, no nothing. If I have to give mentorship to anybody, it's straight up the Flip to Freedom freaking podcast that I watched. Listened to back then.
Right.
But I was listening to it, man, all the time. And he was just dropping nuggets. So, dude, I started to try it. And I told myself, man, if I can just get one deal a month at $10,000 or even half that, I'll be content. I'll be happy.
Right.
Now, what I know about myself is if you put me on a couch and you give me time, it's going to be way more than 10 grand a month, right? But I was like, yeah, that's where I need to start. So, dude, I started, man. I started trying, and it took me like 6 months. I landed a deal, locked the deal up, and I told myself if I can make 10 grand, that's what I told myself. I locked this deal up, and it closed, and I made $9,800. And I said, yep, it's time. I said, this is something that I have to do. Check this out. So I set like this timestamp on my phone. It was a calendar, the day that I was going to walk in and quit. Okay. It was June 1st. The salespeople on my team noticed that I started to check out mentally. So I went from giving 150% to like 100%. Mm-hmm. They were still hitting their numbers, but I wasn't as available.
Right.
I wasn't as in tune, answering every question, helping them with every scenario to get through a sale. So I started to call other sales managers for the problem that I should have been fixing. Red flag. Second red flag, my salespeople started to dig into what I was like. They didn't know what I was doing, but they knew that it wasn't that. And it's just crazy when you're around people like this that get in your business. They found out that I liked a business page that I created of my business. The vice president of the company looked into this business page, called me into the office, asked me what was going on. He done enough research, found my bandit sign, called the bandit sign. My voice was on the voicemail. Bro, it was crazy. Jeez. And they fired me. They fired me 2 days before April Fool's Day in 2019. They said, look, man, we need you to choose. Like they dissed wholesale so bad, dude. They were like, this is your bread and butter. You're making 6 figures a year. You don't have a college education. He looked at me. He was such a cool dude, man. He looked at me and he goes, bro, what are you doing? Like what the heck are you doing?
Right.
And I was like, man, this is what I'm looking to do. Yada, yada, yada. He's like, look, here's what can happen. You can place your real estate license inactive. You can stop this wholesaling crap. Literally, he goes, wholesaling crap. He goes, and you can get back to making your 6 figures, living the life, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, man, my team's still hitting their numbers. I don't understand why I can't do this. I want to do both. He goes, look, this is what's going to happen, Tez. I'm going to give you the weekend to think about it. Spend time with your family and come back Monday. I left that meeting like, spend time with my family. Bro, like, I'm not leaving for the military, all right? Like, right. I'm just trying to make a decision if I want to work for you or not. Like, anyway, so Monday came around. I told him I still want to do both. He was like, look, man, we can do this the easy way or the hard way. Easy way, we give you a severance package, give you some money, or hard way, we just let you go. What do you want to do? I let him know, hey, I understand. That day, I went to go lock up a contract for 19 G's. I wholesaled it for 19 grand. I still got the picture of me standing in front of the front yard like this with the number 1, with my little sign in the front yard. And since 2019, I told myself I don't need to work for anybody else. And since that day, I've not worked for anybody else. I've been wholesaling, investing, fixing, doing all those things, man. So that's my story, man. That's how I got into wholesaling and flipping and doing all this stuff.
That story reminds me a lot of my exit from Pizza Hut, and I've shared the story a couple times, but I'm going to give a brief synopsis of it.
Yes, sir.
I started when I was a high school senior. My mom woke me up the Saturday after my last high school football game. And so she wakes me up at 8 a.m. and she says, "Hey, football season's over. You need to go get a job. Don't come home until you have a job." When my mom says stuff like that, she's serious. So she's literally meaning, "Don't come home until you have a job." So I went and begged to get a job as a delivery driver at Pizza Hut. I stayed there for 8 years. I got promoted from delivery driver to shift manager to assistant manager, all the way up to general manager. I had my own restaurant right next to TCU. It was known as the TCU Pizza Hut. And a gentleman from corporate from Jacksonville, Florida showed up, and I had just very recently taken over the restaurant. And when you get promoted to be a GM of a new restaurant, it's essentially like buying a distressed property. You're flipping the restaurant. Like, there's a reason why you're taking over. It's either because the person before you retired or because they got fired because they weren't doing a good job. Well, that was my reality. I had to flip this thing. And he showed up and he basically eviscerated me and said, "We should have never promoted you. You're nothing but an overpaid shift manager." That was my last day at Pizza Hut. I just, bro, savage. Looking back at it, this is how all in I went on this. I didn't give them my keys. I didn't give them a phone call. I didn't give them a text. They just never saw me again. I went straight Casper the Ghost on their ass because it was so like I was questioning what I had done with my life. And I knew I had to do something else. And it sounds like you were kind of in the same spot where it was just like the words that were coming out of his mouth. Is that you said it. He was a cool guy, but then when it's like the little things that he did, like this wholesaling crap. Like, bro, that for us that end up being entrepreneurs, it's kind of those moments that give us the chip on our shoulder where it's like, no. I'm seriously considering that this is what I want to do in my life. You're not going to sit here and air quote my life. Right? I'm going to go prove you wrong now. And then the next day you're getting the $19,000 wholesale deal holding up the number one in front of the front yard, you know? So like, what was that like? Because now, okay, you're done. This is like the first moment in your life where you're working for yourself. Yeah, you got to deal quickly. Did the momentum stay or were there some struggles there?
Man, good question. So, to rewind to that conversation with this guy was a phenomenal dude. I can't shortchange him. He was somebody who was an advocate for me to be pushed into my sales role.
Right.
And when it comes to when you're a VP of operations in an organization like this, and that's an oversight for you, you can't see one of your main guys is on their way out the door or working out. That makes him look bad.
Right.
Really bad. Because now he has to fill a spot in a division like Oklahoma City, and it can't be somebody new. They never hire anybody new from another organization to take this position. It's always grooming somebody. So when you miss an oversight, like he has to basically come out every week to be who I was in this organization until he can get it back up and running or find somebody. And it took them like 8 months. So make no mistake, he didn't want to fire me. He did not want to let me go. So he was, when he air quoted, first, I respected him a lot. So when he did that, I was still insecure about wholesale.
Right.
Remember, this is like, I've only done one deal. And I didn't have a constant deal flow. I didn't know anything about PPC. I didn't know any of that stuff. Right. So when he air quoted, I thought I may have just got lucky. I made $9,800 on a deal that took me 6 months to work, and I'm making 12 G's a month for sure here.
Right.
For sure. So, I'm still very insecure. So, man, when he did it, it didn't only make me be like, what? It made me be like, well, I'm up for the challenge. Other people are doing it. I proved that I can do it. So when I was going to lock that deal up, I'm like, okay, the first thing I got to do is figure out, I only had like 30K and I hate to say only, but I only had like 30 grand in a 401k. It got taxed. So I only pulled out maybe 22.
Right.
So anyway, besides that, I had to go dial in marketing. I had to go put money back. I was used to making 200, 225 a year. right? So that first year sounds, and I don't want to say only again, but I started hiring people. I started doing things just so fast, not knowing what I was doing. Because again, I didn't know about mentors, man. I didn't know about
Right.
the RJ Bates of the world. I didn't know about the guys out there that could help me. Even Sean, I didn't even know that he had a mentorship. I really didn't. I just
Right.
thought it was information. So I was really just relying on YouTube and all that stuff. So man, the first thing I was like, I gotta dial in a website. I gotta get all this stuff right. I gotta protect myself, taxes. Like, so that first year, man, I grossed $378,000 from April to the end of the year,
That's
which was
impressive.
it was only me, and I had a business partner at the time.
Right.
It's weird. So my business partner, he got fired the same day I did. He was my manager.
Oh, wow.
So he was making like 400 a year, dude. He was making like 378
Holy cow.
a year. Yeah, dude, this organization was not a small time. Like, no, dude, they're out in Texas, they're in Houston, they're national, man. They're
Right.
big. And they place like top 3 every year. And dude, they fired him and fired me. So he let go. So our guy at the time, I'm not gonna say his name, but he let go 2 guys that were like leading the leading division for the company. Oklahoma was the hottest. They're based out of Arkansas. Okay, they're big in Fayetteville. They're big in Northwest Arkansas. They're huge. And then they moved to Oklahoma. They own a lot of real estate, and they do a whole lot. Houston, San Antonio, huge markets. And so, yeah, it wasn't like just a mom and pop builder. So when they let us go, it was a huge hole, but we were still uncertain of what we were going to do. The benefit of this position, a lot of people talk crap about their own job. I'm not that entrepreneur. The benefit of running a multi-million-dollar organization is that we were able to beta test different marketing strategies to understand exactly what works when it comes to impressions.
Yep.
That's what scaled my wholesale business. It's understanding how many times does it take for a seller to see me before they make a decision to do business with me.
Yep.
And seller, buyer, it didn't matter. The Coca-Colas of the world, the McDonald's of the world, they get it. When there's a Coca-Cola commercial that comes on, they don't expect you to jump up and go buy a Coke. They want that decision-making time, when it's decision-making time, just to be a little bit easier.
Yep.
And that's what I aim for in my business. So when we started to dial in impressions, we already knew that from our previous job. So it's not like we don't know sales. We don't know. What we said was, okay, what wholesalers are doing right now, every wholesaler in our market, they're making it about the buyer. Look at their business pages. It's all about the buyer. Nobody was seller focused. So we said, okay, we're going to flip this industry on its head. Right? The people who we were in competition with, everybody was asking us, so y'all want to go wholesale? What about New Western? What about New Western? It took us 18 months to crush those guys in our market. Because nobody was focused on, nobody knows how to sell. I don't care. Right. They just don't know how to sell. They're not seller focused. When you're seller focused, you walk in and don't make it about the property. Don't look at that piece of paper until you understand what that person's going through. We wrap deals up left and right where people were beating us on their offer. We locked them up every time because of the relationship.
Right.
I'm in the relationship business. I've met coaches who are like, I'm not in the relationship business. We're slamming deals. I get it. I'm a straight up people person. I want my property consultant in that person's house. That's just the way I roll.
Yep.
So anyway, what
I have to say, that is not you just saying that because you're on a podcast right now. Like, we were at Quentin Flores and Aaron Bevan's event in San Antonio.
Mm-hmm.
Tez had a freaking army of people, his relationships there in San Antonio. I mean, what did you have, like 25 people?
Yeah, I had at least 20 people at least.
And you literally, it was like a swarm of bees. Like, y'all were just kind of moved through the lobby. It's like, and it was just that. It was your crowd. Those are your relationships that you have built and nurtured over the years, and it was impressive to see. I have to say that. So, continue. So that's where your focus is that you're going to be focused on the seller and building those relationships. So I'm assuming all of your closings are belly to belly appointments.
Yep, most of them. Do we get them over the phone? Yes. When COVID happened, we had to restructure a lot. Like that flipped us on our head. But that first year, April to December, we did 378. The following year, we did 750. And in 2021, we did 1.2 million in wholesaling. And we still weren't fixing flipping. And then we implemented fix and flip in 2022. But
Gotcha.
and what happened in that first year when we did 378, and my partners used to doing 400, like we did. I know a lot of people would be like, that's still a lot of money. That's good. But dude, we probably netted taking home like 80 grand.
Right.
And we're mostly like between the both of us over $500,000 a year in our
Right.
salaries. So we still had to dial it in. And we grew our business by 277% year over year. And it was impressive. It was a blessing to us. But the biggest piece of where I was to where I am today is being seller focused, systems and processes, and just dialing all those things in, man. So now I'm helping people, educating people, and influencing people on mentorship and things like that. So that's the bulk of it, bro.
Why did you make the decision from 2021 to 2022 to add flipping?
The biggest reason is 2021, and most great investors always say the difference between a good wholesaler and a great real estate investor is funding, right? Like when you become a good wholesaler, you now attract deals, you get deals, and you become the hot girl in high school. I always say that because
Right.
everybody wants to hang out, even the competitors, and everybody wants to buy your deal. So buyers and etc. So my business partner had this idea, and he's my ex-business partner. We're no longer business partners, but he had an idea. He was like, look, Tez, what if we did this? What if instead of us, like whenever a buyer signs up, I'm gonna give a bomb right here to every wholesaler watching. What if every single buyer that signs up for our list, we automatically send them an invite saying, hey, would you ever be interested in funding our deals?
Ooh.
Everybody.
I like that.
Because every buyer wants cash flow. Most of them are buying from you for cash flow. Now, do they want the headache of remodeling forever? I'll tell you, on average, it's probably the real guys who really got funds and really got big lines of credit. It's like 1 to 3 years, bro, before they're switching over trying to do some private money lending.
Yeah.
Maybe 5 years. And they certainly, when they're offloading, right? They buy for the first 3 years, and they buy them up. They get to like year 5, year 6, they offload. Now they got capital. Now they want to go do commercial, or they want to lend. Now? So if a person says yes, you just sit down with all the yeses, or you Zoom all the yeses, and now you got funding, private funding.
I love that. That's a very unique way to raise private capital there with what you were already doing. So it didn't really take anything extra for you to do that. So in 2022, when you added flipping, did your wholesale volume go down?
Yes, it did. And it's because we decided to keep stuff. Now, 2021 was crazy hot. I know it probably was crazy hot for you too.
Right.
It was hot for so many of us in the beginning of 2022, probably to mid-year. In 2021, we had the funding, but in our mind, we were thinking, okay, if somebody is really silly enough to pay us this much for the house, let them have it. Let them have
Right.
it. So
Right.
it's like, our break even was always like 25 to 30K on a flip. If we make 25 to 30K on a flip, we'll take it down. But we start making that on wholesale fees
Right.
in Oklahoma.
Exactly.
So like in Texas and Florida, we were wholesaling in both those markets, and we were take 30K flips. I mean, wholesales all day, 27, 22, spreads were bigger. Oklahoma, though, our average spread was 12.5. When people start paying us double that, we were like, oh yeah, let's go. So we started wholesaling. And what we did was towards the end of 2021, we knew something was coming. Everybody was talking about it. Nobody just knew when. So like 2022, we started to buy more and take them on. And if we couldn't get what we wanted, in our mind, we still were thinking we can make 20K. We didn't know what was about to happen in the market. So if we couldn't get what we wanted, we would just buy it. So it's like, okay, if I'm not making 20K on this wholesale, I'm just gonna buy it, flip it, and make 30, make 40, make whatever. So naturally, the deal flow never slowed down. We were just taking more stuff on.
Gotcha.
And
do you enjoy that model more than just straight wholesaling?
Today, no.
Today, no. Okay.
Then yes.
So why today, no?
Today, no, because of interest rates.
Gotcha.
Right now, the only way to tell it, for me to make it make sense, I'm going to either novate it or I'm going to close on it. But when I close on it, I miss out on the largest pool of buyers, which are FHA buyers, for 90 days.
Right.
because of the flip guideline. So I can't even accept an FHA an FHA offer for 90 days. And that's probably the only people, the highest motivated buyers right now in our market.
Right.
FHA people, because they still want to move. They still hate their crappy apartment, right? They don't know about interest rates. They don't care. They just want to go buy something. So when you're looking at conventional buyers and you're depending on conventional or cash, they're a whole lot more picky, whole lot more selective, because they know that they're like the unicorn in the market right now. So, flipping, I'd rather just wholesale it. If I can make within, honestly, 5 to 10K of what I would do of flipping it, I just let it go.
So here's the thing about that is so I agree on the novations part because of the FHA. However, a couple episodes prior to this one, I had Casey Smith come on from Atlas Transaction Coordination. One of her biggest complaints about working with wholesalers, flippers, specifically the newer ones, is that because they listen to a podcast like you, right? In 2017, 2018, you listened to Sean Terry and then you just got into wholesaling. Now it's become sexy in 2023 to talk about doing novations. And those people, because they heard to do it because, hey, there's a bigger pool of FHA buyers, not necessarily understanding how to do the paperwork correctly, understanding how to have the conversations with the sellers, understanding the legalities of each individual state and how that's supposed to be handled differently. So, on that note, I know that you didn't have a mentor when you got started, minus the Sean Terry podcast, but you are doing mentorship now. Is that because you're trying to teach people how to do things the right way? Or talk a little bit about, if someone's listening to this and they're saying, well, I'm a wholesaler and I did $300,000 last year. Maybe I should start doing novations. How is the best way for them to learn how to do a novation correctly?
I think the best, when you're talking about the legal side of it, the biggest piece, you need to talk to somebody who does it. You need to talk to somebody who does it in your market. Because I went to an event in San Antonio, not this one, but the one before that, and guys were talking about novation. So, I was looking into it, understanding more about it. And a novation essentially is a net listing. Is the way it's saw in Oklahoma.
True to a certain extent. Now, but there's different ways that you could do it with the power of attorney. And also, what is your this was one of the things that me and Casey talked about in depth, was when you're selling to an FHA buyer, there are certain things that have to be done on the house for it to be sold. And so if you don't have the capital to be able to make those improvements, so why did you feel comfortable starting to flip? Because you had capital, right? So there's a need here. There's steps that you have to take along the way. Yeah, sure, we can simplify down what a novation is, but there's still things along the way that you have to be prepared for. And her example was, you can't have chip paint on the exterior of the house. Well, that could lead to you having to paint the whole damn house. So if you don't have $5,000 or $6,000 to go paint the exterior of the house, you've screwed yourself and the seller in this circumstance. So that's kind of what I'm talking about right there.
1,000%.
I mean, just making sure that you don't just hear Tez say, hey, I'm doing novations, and think, well, that means I can go do this, without a little bit of understanding of the process.
I love that, bro. I love that. Absolutely.
On your education stuff, the mentorship that you're doing, it's called Verified Flippers. That's why we named the episode this. So talk about that. What is that program, and what is it that you're doing there?
Absolutely, man. So I've got 2 functions made up to my mentorship. I've got a mastermind, and then I've got my large group coaching. The majority of people that come in who don't know what wholesaling is, or they need to learn how to market for more sellers and things like that, they're in my large group, right? And it's made up of 3 functions in itself. So it's kind of packaged up. I've got a support group, which is a Slack channel where all my students are. Hundreds of wholesalers already there. And then I've got my weekly Zoom calls I do with my students. Which every single week they can tap in for 2 hours to talk to me about wholesaling, talk to me about what's going on in their business. I have guests come on. We should have you on, dude. I would love to have you come on. pour into my community of people. But every single week I go live on Zoom. I'm talking to them about what's going on in their business, different professionals. And then they got the online training portion, which there's 76 training videos explaining A to Z how to get a wholesale deal done, what wholesaling is, what formula we use, gifting my contract, the repair sheet that I give my students, everything A to Z on a wholesale. So you got the online training piece, you got the group message where everybody's talking, you're able to answer a question, regardless of how busy I am or whatever. You have a community that you can tap into and ask those questions and always get answers. And the other portion of that is the weekly Zooms. So that's my large group coaching. And then I've got my mastermind coaching, which is for people who are looking to go from just being a wholesaler to scaling a wholesale business, making it a business, right? So those are the two pieces of coaching that I'm offering right now.
Awesome. What's the best way for people to find out about that program and also just to learn more about you?
Absolutely, man. I'll tell them to go follow me on Instagram at Tez Arbertha. Spelling's in the thing, but I'll do it anyway. At TezArbertha on Instagram. Make sure you follow the right page and yeah, sign up, man. Let's go.
That's everybody's disclaimer right now. Make sure you follow the right one, not the one that has the random like number instead of the letter or something
underscore.
Like
yeah,
it's crazy. So Tez, man, I really appreciate you coming on the show today. Appreciate you sharing your knowledge, not just here today, but all the time, man. I mean, I know you're running free events, Labreas in Oklahoma City all the time.
Yep.
And I absolutely love the passion that you have for wanting to put OKC on the map. Because I agree, dude, Oklahoma is one of our top 5 states of all time as far as volume goes. And so I do think people sleep on it frequently. Now, I will say majority of our stuff was in Tulsa. Probably because we couldn't compete with you in New Western. So we just went up to Tulsa and got away from it. So, all right, Tez, appreciate you joining the podcast today.
Yes, sir. We'll see you, man.
All right.